Our businesses today are increasingly leveraging innovative approaches to improve operational efficiency across the board. According to the International Data Corporation, this is being propelled by the rise of digital tools and resources, including artificial intelligence.
IDC expects spending on AI in the Asia-Pacific to grow to more than $49 billion in 2025. But while generative AI has the groundbreaking potential to revolutionize workflows, concerns remain when it comes to ethics, cybersecurity, and accountability. One firm navigating that AI push is Adobe.
And for more, let's speak with Simon Tate, President of Asia Pacific at Adobe. He joins us right here in our studio. Simon, so good to have you on this morning. I want to talk first about your projections for Q3. Adobe has raised it nearly fourfold to some $19 billion. What's fueling the optimism? How much of this do you think is going to come from emerging tech, AI, for example?
Firstly, good to be back. Thanks for having me on the studio. So you're right, we had a great Q2. We upped the full year guidance north of $19.25 billion. Interestingly, though, the full year guidance in terms of net new, what we call digital media revenue, is about $1.7 billion. We expect some of that, certainly in the second half, to be fueled by new innovations. Generative AI, I know, is a hot topic. We announced, obviously, Adobe Express and Firefly at our EMEA and US summits only a month or two ago. So without question, part of the upbeat tone that you have in the corridors of Adobe HQ has to do with new innovative tech. But the other part of it is just organic growth in what is an ever-exploding content economy. I think everyone understands that the digital economy is worth now, by some estimates, $6 trillion. But generative AI as an important accelerant of that digital economy and an important enabler of all businesses to drive the levels of productivity increase that we think are available, it stops nothing short of the GDP of a small country. I mean, what we think generative AI will enable by way of productivity uplift is truly staggering. So it's a big bet, that's for sure.
It's still fairly early days with this, despite the fact that there's so much now on the market and coming into the sort of mainstream every day. Incredible leaps have been made, large language models like ChatGPT or image generators like Midjourney as well. Are we just still scratching the surface, though, do you think, when it comes to generative AI? Is there a lot more that we just don't know about?
I think so. I mean, if people think that generative AI is the ability for kids to cheat on the history assessments using ChatGPT-4, well, there's a lot more to come. Important thing to note, though, Adobe's been in the AI space for 10 years. But what we see coming with things like Firefly, I think will be truly mind-blowing. We have the ability, by some estimates, to add 3 to 5% top-line productivity. I was talking this morning to the CEO of one of the largest private banks in Vietnam, who pointed to a McKinsey study saying that the benefit just to the banking industry could easily be a 5% increase in productivity. That's worth trillions and trillions of dollars to the global economy. So if you take that thinking and instead of adopting the sort of doomsday view of AI is going to kill all of our jobs and think more from the perspective of this moving people up the value chain, then I think the opportunity for Gen AI to be truly accretive to the global economy, that's certainly where our head is at. And we've seen the early indicators of that just with the launch of Firefly. In the 2 weeks that we had that in beta, we had 1 million users and over 100 million generative images created on the Firefly site and in products like Adobe Photoshop, which most people love. So the proxy is certainly there for this to be a knockout piece of innovation over the next few years.
Well, Simon, whether people love it or fear it, I mean, the AI frenzy we're seeing has no doubt fueled a tech rally. Do you think its actual use cases and the economic benefits lives up to the hype? Is it overhyped?
It's a great question, and I think you've phrased it well. You've got to put all of these innovative technologies into the context of a real-life use case. If at the end of the day, the customers watching your show, many of whom represent the biggest of corporates across Asia, can't get top line, tangible top line, and or bottom line benefit from adopting any new technology, well, then it's just technology for technology's sake. Our view is that there are absolutely real tangible use cases. Well, let me give you a couple of examples. If you think of what we call the content life cycle, the content supply chain, if you could halve the amount of time that it took to create content and then to monetize content in an industry like yours, that productivity uplift would be phenomenal. If you think of an insurance company wanting to, for example, reduce the time that it takes to pay motor vehicle accident claims, and the ability for something like Firefly to train their image-based assets to know what's real and what's not real, that would reduce premiums for consumers, and it would obviously uplift productivity with every insurance company. We talked earlier about the banking industry and what productivity uplift we could see across banking. So you're absolutely right. There has to be clear attribution to a tangible use case. And by conservative estimates, we think this is absolutely a 3 to 5 point productivity uplift. What is interesting, though, is that we've seen the uptake of generative AI initiatives accelerate in the top end of town, so big businesses, but we're still lagging in that SME space. That worries me a little bit, especially when I look across our Asian customers in many economies, Singapore no exception. There's a huge proportion of GDP that relates to small and medium enterprise. I think there's something in this for us to really make sure that those SMEs are benefiting from the same innovative power of Gen AI as what some of their bigger counterparts are.
So if we could have one message, I guess, for our viewers watching about what's coming down the pipe when it comes to generative AI. A recent report by investment bank Goldman Sachs said artificial intelligence could replace the equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs. So what should we be thinking of when it comes to AI? Obviously, if you can't beat it, you're going to have to join it. So is that the message?
I think so. I mean, remember 8 years ago, we were talking about general AI, which is now part of our lives. I mean, I look at your studio today and you couldn't do what you do without a level of artificial intelligence. There was no Cyberdyne inspired apocalyptic event. No one lost their jobs. This is no different. It's the next logical evolution in this theme of artificial intelligence. And I believe, as does everyone at Adobe, that this will be truly accretive to the global economy. And just look at some of the numbers, Steve. 49.2 billion, I think, was the IDC number that you pointed to by 2026. I mean, that's an incredible amount of spend. And that's just in today's numbers. By some reports, the CAGR on AI investment will be 25%. So by 2030, just in Singapore, the AI market will be worth $16 billion. I mean, that's incredible. In my 25 years in technology, I've never seen a market that big. I made the point that the digital economy on aggregate is worth about $6 trillion. Well, the generative AI market, just as a subset, could be worth at least that. So to your question, what's coming? Who knows? But I think it's all going to be great, and I think businesses and consumers ultimately will benefit.
Well, Simon, so good to have you on. That was Simon Tate there. He is APAC president with Adobe. Thanks for sharing those insights.
And for more of our coverage on the push towards artificial intelligence, do head over to our website, cna.asia, or our mobile app as well.